Alex Hormozi is ridiculously transparent in his videos.
Our average view duration is over 8.5 minutes. My community posts over the last 30 days had 2.5 million impressions. My short videos got about 18 million impressions.
He will share one of the most important things that got him to 3 million subscribers.
It's about value per second, not seconds of value.
So I watched every Alex Hormozi interview, video, and even his exclusive podcast or Skool only content where he talks about YouTube. And I ended up with a lot of notes. And I mean a lot of notes. And of course all the clips to save you the months of doing all of that work. And I've compiled Hormozi's top advice into 12 categories. Because even though I've done over $5 million, hired over 50 people, and started on YouTube in 2012, I can learn a lot from Alex. So let's start with what he thinks is one of the most important things on YouTube.
And if you're gonna obsess about something, these are the two things I would obsess on. Number one is the thumbnail. We split test 9 different thumbnails. The thumbnail matters a lot.
Now before Alex shares his best performing thumbnail styles, what even is a good click-through rate to aim for?
A great click-through rate is 10%. Anytime we've been over 10%, it's like this video's taking off. It really resonated. This concept really resonated.
If we're in the like 14 to 15%,
yeah,
as many YouTubers say, it's a banger. It's a certified banger.
Now here's a thumbnail style you probably want to copy and test for yourself, because they have consistently given Alex the highest click-through rates. Listen up.
Like when we look at our own thumbnails, it's like you really only need a handful of kind of templates that work. That's like, I have one, I think I need like 3 more for the different styles of content we have. And so I'm working on it.
Well, I actually worked on it and created these thumbnail templates. So you can create thumbnails like this, and this in minutes. And the best of all, it's free.
Absolutely free.
But don't just use those only. Here are some psychology things that Alex has learned about his thumbnails.
The difference between these two thumbnails is going from vague to clear. What is the video on the left about? You'd probably be like, a rule of some sort that might have to do with money. Not sure. What's the video on the right? The yellow background video. A map or a blueprint or schematics of some sort that go from 0 to 1 million. The one on the right, it's exactly that. The one on the left actually has nothing to do with what that thumbnail looks like. So we're going from vague to clear in both what it looks like, the thumbnails, and what we say about it, the headlines.
So the more clear the combination of the title and thumbnail, the higher your average view duration, which YouTube seems to care more about than click-through rate. I mean, it's the only metric they show in their thumbnail A/B test too. And also consider the following.
I try to think of the first frame as the thumbnail.
But now on YouTube, videos automatically play. It's possible that people open YouTube and they don't see it. They don't even see
Especially
the
for
thumbnail.
us, because like for so many people I've watched hundreds of our videos, when I upload, I am first on your homepage. So like you just literally don't even see the thumbnail because it autoplays so quickly. So like the thumbnail is irrelevant. I have to like visually convince you to click on the video.
Of course, the bigger you get, the more important this becomes, because then you will be shown on top and your video autoplays. But the best advice for everyone, not just large creators, is to always A/B test your thumbnails and look at your own data. And here is what Alex has learned about his titles after A/B testing hundreds, if not thousands of them.
From a headlines perspective, if I were to remake these today, I might try a first crack at business influencer crushes haters and shows how you can too. Okay, so now if I'm clicking, I would understand at least that this guy is a business influencer of some sort and he crushes haters. Okay, well, I might want to see haters get crushed. Day in the life of $200 million per year CEO. Okay, now the jet tells me that this Alex Hormozi from the first one before, Alex Hormozi is maybe rich or maybe he can afford a private jet, but now I know he's a CEO because I could be a rapper.
He could be a rapper, but then listen closely, because how does this, what he just said, apply to your content?
The point is that we actually make it welcoming to everyone, right? And here's why this matters. If you want your content to bring people who don't know you, which is why many of you guys make content, then you can't assume they do.
And if you think about it, there's a lot of truth in this.
Mentally act as though you're always talking to a stranger, because if the content does well, you are.
Which brings me to Alex's second most important element to obsess on.
You need to obsess about your first 30 seconds.
Well, I was actually surprised the first time that I heard how serious Alex is about his intro. Listen up.
This video right here, we did 8 different takes of the intro where I slowly worked from 30 seconds down to 8, and then that's what became the intro that you saw before seeing this moment right now.
He re-records his intros many times until they're good. But then what do you actually include in your hooks?
And so when I looked at the top 100 or whatever YouTube videos I had, the ones that were the top 10 all had proof, promise, plan. What's the promise? What's the proof that you can deliver on that promise? And then, okay, now I'll listen to your plan. Here's the layout for the video. Here's the roadmap. Here's the framework.
Now here's why he thinks why not doing this may be the reason reason why you're getting less views.
There's an unspoken question in every person's mind that has to first be answered, which is, why should I listen to you? And I think it's one of the most profound questions. And I think it influences how people share, how people take your content, everything. It's the frame that the content is consumed in.
Every time when I hear this, it makes more sense to me. I mean, subconsciously, you care less about what I have to say and more about Alex, right? So avoid the following mistake that I've made a lot in the 600 videos that I've uploaded since 2012.
Not enough people are paying attention to who they are and what they have done when they are claiming that they can help someone, and trying to focus way too much on the stuff being said.
And by the way, if you wonder, yes, this is a new channel of mine. And if you still have a small channel like this one, then why not do the following? I'm going to leave a pinned comment below where you can subscribe to each other so we can help each other grow in 2025. And you will be able to see how the comment to view ratio on this video affects the views, which is a little experiment of mine. Now here's another reason why you may not get as many views.
I get a disproportionate amount of attention because what I have done, not because what I'm saying is necessarily novel.
Now here's what he means with that.
The stuff has to be good, but the frame in which people consume content is the messenger. Like, the messenger is inextricably linked with what they are consuming, with the message itself. And so I think not enough people are paying attention to who they are and what they have done when they are claiming that they can help someone.
Now that's exactly why I shared my bank accounts in the intro of this video. So you know I've actually done over $5 million in revenue because Alex said this.
Proof, motherfuckers. Proof. Like, that's what matters. Like, if you get one thing out of all the stuff that I have to say here, it's proof.
When you think about it, it could be the obvious reason why people click away in your intro.
So there's this big obvious. It's like the big obvious is the problem 99% of the time.
Now here's a mistake that I think many people make.
Like, hey, I'm a teacher and I will give you great investing advice. It's like, well, you can't be that good.
Which brings us to the psychology reason behind a high retention intro.
Part of the reason that being an authority and having proof that you can do what you say you can do matters is because it's actually more efficient for the listener. If you're a teacher who says they can help me to invest, you might have information that's better than Warren Buffett's. But I constantly have to appraise what you're saying in real time to decide whether I do think it's better or not. If the richest man in the world gives you investing advice, you actually you turn that part of your brain off. You're like, I'm just going to listen and take it as fact. And so it's actually lazier consumption to listen to an authority, which comes into whole ethical things around persuasion. But like, fundamentally, that is why demonstrating authority is so important, because it actually makes it easier for them. It's less effort for the consumer.
But then what can you practically say in your intro so that people keep watching?
So there's two ways that you can show proof, right? So if you're advanced or you've been doing this a while, then you want to show proof of results, period. You want as many as you possibly can in the format I talked about, the most believable way. Great.
Before we go to the second one, here's an example of the first way.
If you click a video that says like the best investment advice in the world, and then the first 5 seconds, it's like, my name's Warren Buffett and I own Berkshire Hathaway and it took me 94 years to be worth $100 billion. Here's 8 things you probably want to consider. You're like, okay.
But then what if you're not a Warren Buffett yet?
If you're newer, you can show proof of effort. So I could have said, I made 35,000 posts. That's still enough work that people are like, well, I don't want to do that work. I want to see what he learned.
And a great way to collect your proof is by doing this.
You can do that by just looking at the stuff within your business. And so this process of look back, see what worked, that is how you create content. It's how you solve your own problems.
So for instance, I did this 6-month YouTube experiment for myself, and then I made a video about it, which Alex calls...
That's what we call 1 of 0 content, which is something that only we can make. And so everybody here can make content that no one else can make by simply talking about the stuff that you've done that no one else has done.
So again, comment below this video so you are part of my next experiment. And of course, besides this 1 of 0 way that Alex says, you can still look at outlier video titles and thumbnails and use those to fit in your own content. And then make sure you do this in the intro.
Fundamentally, if you have each video that you outline with what is the promise for this person, right? What is the proof that I can deliver on that promise? And then what's the plan that I'm going to walk them through? And you want to get all that done in like 8 seconds if it's a long.
I don't fully agree with the 8 seconds, but to make sure that our intros are even more engaging, consider this.
I will film the hook at the end of the video. So this is a practical tip. If you struggle with hooks, if you find yourself overthinking them, you can try filming them at the end of the video session.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do at the end of this video. And even though this long form video of mine got over 1.1 million views, most of my videos' potential is wasted in the first 8 seconds.
And so some of you do have amazing videos that you spent a really long time on, but it took you 45 seconds to get to the point of the video and you lost everybody. You can just get to the point faster and say as much as you can with as few words as you can.
Yeah, so avoid this at all costs.
The more you're cognizant, the more that you're cognizant and you're aware of, the more that
the more...
Shout out to Iman Gatzi's editor. So now that you know how to improve your intros, I also want to improve our retention. But before we dive into Alex, his more hidden secrets, here are some obvious ones.
You don't want to make a 45-minute video if you can say it in 5. It's about value per second, not seconds of value.
Value per second. Now pay close attention to these 3 things that his editors do to increase retention and value per second.
Overproduction to effective production. From distracting to enhancing. From visual effects to visualizing data.
Yeah, those things that he just mentioned only apply to a specific type of video, mostly educational videos. But what is something that every creator can do to increase average view duration?
My favorite driver of retention is curiosity. My favorite way to get the audience curious is to embed questions in their mind.
So to retain more people, you want to keep making them curious. And Alex does that by adding questions. Now here's an example.
My editor made me do 19 drafts of this book. Here's what I did to him. Ha.
And if you paid attention, you've noticed that I've been asking questions quite often during this video. But there is something that Alex does that is even more important. Listen closely.
The big flex on this is understanding where you get double, triple, quintuple dips on content. And so a lot of people don't know this, but the highest leverage thing that I do with my time is I make tweets. Those tweets are actually the life source of everything.
Now here's why, because he's basically testing based on data which hooks and video topics are likely to get more views. Now here is his system.
So I'll post this stuff and I'll be like, okay, those are the ones that people thought were interesting. And then the threads become long format and the shorts become short format.
Now I know that it's an old video, but he still does this till today. And if you wonder, how do I then find out what to tweet or post like on Instagram or Threads?
And so fundamentally, when you're making content, one of the easiest frames to use is how can I give someone time back? So people want to buy time at a bargain.
Now here are 2 ways that Alex uses himself to give people that deal on time. Now listen closely, because it can be the game changer in your own content.
You can either be, quote, an expert based on an achievement that you've already done, or you become an expert based on work that no one wants to do. And so I use this example because it's really simple, but like I could have said, hey, I added 8 million people across all my audiences using this content strategy. Or I could say, I posted 35,000 times over the last 40 months. This is what I learned. I could not even talk about the output. I just talk about my inputs. And a lot of people just want the deal on time.
So you can talk about your inputs, like this video that you're watching, or even better, about your outputs, your results, or at least mention them like I did, right? I did over $5 million. But then what about artificial intelligence? What if AI content gets better and better and better?
Unless AI lies, it can't talk about what it did in the real world. So you could talk about what you've done.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. So yeah, it's like documenting the stuff that you've actually done in the world.
So like you do and talk about what you did, then no one else can talk about the stuff you did because only you did it.
So to make that more practical, here's an example. To find out the best ideas to make videos about, just look at the outlier videos. For example, with this free Chrome extension. By the way, link below to 80 other free tools that I use. No affiliate links. And then when you know those outlier ideas, you just pick the ones that you have unique experience in. Either based on effort, like doing 1,000 push-ups, or based on the results. Right? The 6-pack that you may have. Brings me to monetization. How do you actually make money from your YouTube videos?
Toss out the vanity metrics because they do not matter if you're trying to make money. If you're just trying to get famous, then yeah, by all means, it's a great metric for fame, right? You can either be rich or you can be famous. You can obviously be both, but honestly, sometimes it's a lot faster to just get rich.
If you have doubts, like me, if it's really better to not focus on going viral, then listen closely.
If you're a business owner, I would not gauge views whether the video is good or not. It just shows how relevant it is to how many people.
That is interesting. Views just show that it is relevant to more people, not necessarily the right people.
Don't be afraid of the empty room. Very low views doesn't mean low revenue. It just means that it's more specific and that you're talking to a more specific person. And a specific problem being solved for a specific person is how you make big money.
Solving a specific problem for a specific person is one way how you can make a lot of money.
It's 2 worlds where there's like the world that makes money and just needs traffic and the world that has so much traffic and has no money. And so when you learn how to marry those 2, you just make absolutely obscene amounts of money. I mean, like Logan Paul merging with Prime, like he had the audience and the traffic and then he had a way to make money. Mr. Beast with the chocolate, like he had distribution, he just needed a product. Alex Hormozi needed a product for the distribution base. Skool, right? Tons of traffic, where do we send it?
Let's go more in depth into Alex's new monetization framework.
The people who best monetize an audience do percentage conversion times LTV. That's it. So what percentage of your audience do you convert and what's the lifetime gross profit per customer? And that's it. That's the math. The person who makes the most money wins.
Percentage conversion times LTV. Now I think there's a big reason why a lot of people on YouTube don't make enough money to live from, and it is this.
Motherfuckers motherfucker, the reason you built this audience was to direct them somewhere. Like, unless you're just trying to likes ain't cash, views ain't cash. Like, don't forget why you started this.
If the fear of being liked by the few people who comment negatively under your videos is greater than your desire to make money, you will probably struggle with this for a long time, especially if you hold false beliefs like this one.
So just because you get more views doesn't mean you get more revenue. Just because you get more subs doesn't mean you get more opt-ins, right? For your website or for whatever it is that you sell. You don't get sales from that stuff. Subscribers don't mean sales.
But then does that mean that you should make niche content?
Niche content will make you a hell of a lot more money if that's what you're actually selling.
I agree with Alex there, but what if you have a product that many people can use? Then why would you niche down? Whereas if you have that niche product, of course it makes more sense to create content for that niche. Which brings me to the question, should you focus on making a lot of shorts or fewer long form videos?
I think it's a width and depth thing. I think the shorts give you a lot of breadth. I think the longs give you a lot of depth. And so there's a visual that I put together that took me too long to say that same thing.
I would say it a bit differently. The more attention you can hold, the more money you can make. And with long form, I found it easier to hold the attention of the right people. That is something that I call time trust leverage, which is the natural trust that grows as a result of spending more time with someone. So here's a visual example. If you get 1 million views on your reel or short, which is let's say 30 seconds long, then you get around 8,300 hours of total watch time. But if you get 100,000 views, which is 10 times less, on your let's say 20-minute YouTube video, then you get 33,000 hours of total watch time, which is around 4 times as many watch hours while getting 10 times as less the views. That is what I call time trust leverage and the power of long form videos. People buy from people they know, like, or trust. So by focusing on watch hours, not views, then people will get to know you better, and thus you can monetize a higher percentage of your audience, which is important, right?
It really wasn't about the content at all. It was about the audience. What I didn't understand was the content you create isn't the compounding asset. The audience is.
Yes, content fades, audience stays. So make sure you build the right one and avoid the following.
If you don't know what is constraining your business, you are the constraint. And what I mean by that is like your lack of knowledge. And so ignorance is the biggest debt we all pay for not knowing how to do the things we should.
Ignorance is the biggest debt we all pay for not knowing how to do the things we should. Which brings us to arguably the most important part of this video. Listen closely.
Strategy is a big, fluffy, amorphous word that gets tossed around a lot and no one knows what the means, but it's probably important. And in my opinion, it is the most important. Strategy is just prioritizing. In layman's terms, it's what's going to get us the most bang for the buck. If you want the fancy definition that I have, it's how you choose to allocate resources that are limited against unlimited options.
So then, what is Alex's YouTube strategy?
If you have a YouTube channel and you want to grow your YouTube channel, you could, of course, run ads to your YouTube channel to grow it. But why? If you can't retain the people who are watching your YouTube videos, why get more people to watch your bad YouTube videos? I want something that grows. I want something that grows on its own.
So here's how Alex then makes sure he doesn't lose subscribers.
You don't build an audience to get views. You get views to build an audience. And so until your stuff's good enough, I would recommend not promoting it, which sounds counterintuitive. Again, growth, counterintuitive. But keep doing it until it's good enough that you retain and multiply audience. At that point, then you become inevitable. You become an inevitability. Growth becomes something that must occur, that happens without your consent, without your permission. It keeps growing. Whether you like it or not, you just keep getting bigger. You keep multiplying. You keep amplifying the message that you have because your audience does that for you, because there's more of them than there are of you, because there's only 2 people that can promote your stuff, you and other people. And again, there's more of them than there are of you. And so unlocking how to get them to promote it. And again, when I say them promoting, I'm saying very, dollars and cents here, but it's really making it valuable enough that they deem it worthy to share.
So then how do we answer the following question?
We want to make content so good, people feel obligated to share.
How do we answer that? Now, Alex has 2 levels of how you can create videos that people actually share. Listen closely, because it is complicated, but an important part of his YouTube strategy.
Level 1 is, this is good enough for me to come back and listen to something else. Level 2 is, I want 5 people I know to hear this message so that I don't have to tell them. So me sharing this saves me the time of having to share this message with them. And I think their lives would be better off. And I get social status from making the share because I've made their lives better and they'll associate that value with me. And so basically it's like you doing this work for somebody else so that they can gain benefit without working. So we we basically give them a shortcut to social capital by making the gift that they can give somebody else without putting the time in. And so I think that is the very nature of value creation within an audience and how audiences compound.
Now my question when I hear this is, isn't there a more practical strategy to increase views from the right people who then share it and so on? Which brings me to the YouTube power laws. Listen closely.
The bigger the creator, usually the less frequent they actually make videos. And it's because they realize just power laws exist, which is that if you spend 10 times more time on one video, it doesn't get 10 times the views. Sometimes you get 100 times the views.
So Alex is saying that investing 10 hours into one video may get you 10,000 views, whereas investing 100 hours into one video does not give you 100,000 views, but 1 million.
You create the quantity to figure out the quality. And so in the beginning, more people make lots of content, and then you start figuring out the stuff that works, and then you'll notice that they're like, oh man, well, we did spend more time on that video. Okay, well, if we're gonna keep making videos like that, I don't think we can make this money, but it's okay because you make it up on the fact that the total quality of that one, it gets shared more, people watch it longer. And I think Mr. B said this, but it was like, if you make 10 videos or you spend 10 times and you make that one video 20% better in terms of AVD or click-through rate, you don't get 10 times the views, you get 100 times the views. So you get a disproportionate return for quality.
Which raises the question in me, how do you actually make better YouTube videos?
I would encourage you to just start, and then all you have to do is every month or every week, look back at the 3 videos you made the week before and just try and improve one thing.
Here are some of my YouTube analytics. But then how do I find the best things to improve?
I watched 35 of my YouTube videos, and then I was like, okay, what are all the things that happen in each one of them? So I wrote them all down. You drink in a ton of data, you get everything, and then you circle where are the commonalities.
Which brings me to data. I love this part, and here's how Alex uses his YouTube Studio data to create better videos.
So you create this checklist over time that becomes this Mondo checklist of what ultimately creates an exceptional video that performs.
So then what data should you track?
Be honest. Who here actually tracks something besides views? Who makes views the most important metric you track?
Now he says this because views quickly can become a vanity metric.
Views, and that was the only metric we had. But we had to have something to counter it, because otherwise then you get views for views' sake. But we needed a quality metric with a quantity metric.
I've fallen for this trap many times, and sometimes I still do. Now here is the alternative.
When you just have views as a metric, then you kind of do chase wider because it was the only real metric we were tracking. And we didn't really have anything better at the time, and since we focused on. Since then, we've transitioned to ad revenue, and here's why. Ad revenue takes into account views, but it has a second metric that's paired with it, which is RPMs, which is revenue per 1,000 eyeballs. So if YouTube pays lots of money for the eyeball, then it means they're more valuable. And if they're more valuable to the advertiser, they're more valuable to me.
I don't think this reasoning is completely true, because videos for doctors also have higher RPMs, but they're not the right people for Alex. So the following reasoning makes more sense.
The month with the highest RPMs and ad revenue also created the most book sales, the most opt-ins, and the most business applications.
Now, that makes more sense, and it's his personal experience, not just an assumption. By the way, if you wonder what Alex exactly means with ad revenue, listen up.
How does ad revenue come to be? So it comes from 2 things. This number of views times revenue per views. Now the actual term is RPMs, which is revenue per mille, which is French for 1,000, but it's number of views times the revenue that you get.
So for instance, this video of mine made me around 950 euros, and that is the number that Alex cares about. And then sometimes this happens.
Sometimes you hit it out of the park and you actually get both. So my highest revenue per view video also happens to be my most viewed video. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that if you have a lot of views, the RPMs are low. No, not at all.
So whether you are monetized or not yet, I recommend always testing what works best for you, like I did in this 6-month experiment. Now here's what I found. After I uploaded over 311 videos across 12 different channels, this video, which was the same on both channels, on one with 389 subs, it got 169 views, whereas on the channel with only 3 subscribers, it got over 1,000 views. Same video. Now I share this to show you that experimenting is key. Not just believing this video, me, Alex. Find out what works best for you. Which brings me to an interesting data point that Alex cares about, which is not really measurable.
I have a friend who says this as his way of measuring audience. He says, butts in fucking seats. He said, if you say you're showing up at one city, he said, who fucking shows up? Who gives a shit? And to me, that is the metric that I optimize towards.
Now I know this sounds fake, so let's unpack this. Listen closely.
It really wasn't about the content at all. It was about the audience. What I didn't understand was the content you create isn't the compounding asset. The audience is.
Like we discussed before, content fades, audience stays. The compound effect doesn't take days. But then how do we build that audience that actually shows up if we are in a city?
If I wear a hat in every video, then people start to associate the hat with me, right? And if I provide value, eventually you can take the hat off and people still associate the value value with the hat. Fundamentally, that's what branding is.
Branding. Now I know it's difficult to measure and often takes a long time to build, but here's why it could be worth all of your efforts.
Your ability to price above a commoditized version of whatever you offer, like that discrepancy between what a commodity sells at and what yours sells at, like that is the pricing power that brand affords you. And so with price being the single strongest lever on profits in any kind of business, having a brand becomes incredibly important if it is the strongest influencer on your ability to price.
So price is the strongest lever on profit, and brand allows you to price higher, thus make more profit. So then how do we build our personal brand, like in our YouTube videos?
State the facts and tell the truth. Say what no one else can say, show what no one else can show. Because there's always things that you have unique to your brand that only you can show. A lot of people just don't show it.
Now, if this still sounds vague, I actually found the following incredibly helpful.
There are 3 elements to brand. The first is the strength of the influence. When people see me or see a logo or see something, does it change their behavior? And so if we were to go to the etymology of the word, or basically where it first began, branding was like if I branded a cow, it's got a mark on it. The reason for that was because it would change people's behavior. If I saw a cow that didn't have a brand, cow that did have a brand, I would maybe catch this cow, I would leave it alone, I'd do whatever. But the one that has Rick's logo on it, I might give it back to Rick, or I'd kill the cow if I hate Rick, or I'd steal the cow if I hate. Either way, the brand, I would treat this cow differently than the cow that had no brand. And so brands change behavior at scale. That's why they're so valuable.
So the first element of any personal brand is the strength of its influence. Like Alex says, brand changes behavior, because an unbranded cow may be to eat, whereas a cow with the brand is likely to be returned to the owner. But then what is the second element of a brand?
Donald Trump changes a lot of people's behavior. Now, the next question is that behavior going towards or is it going away? For some people, it's very strongly towards, and other people, it's very strongly away, but he changes people's behavior. So he has a strong brand from an influence perspective. The directionality is going to depend on the person.
Okay, so if you, who's watching this video right now, scrolls down and clicks on the link below, for instance, to get access to my Google Sheet with 80 plus free tools, or the thumbnail pack, then you are moving towards me. Now, what about the third element?
And then the next piece, the third piece, is just the reach, which is how many people in general have this association with you.
Influence, direction, reach. So then what is the ultimate personal brand you can build?
The hypothetical max of what a brand would be, which is you'd want as many people as humanly possible moving towards you and all changing their behavior at once when they see your thing. That would be the hypothetical max of a brand, right? Like Taylor Swift has a brand that's very close to this. Everyone knows who she is. She has a very strong brand in terms of changing people's behavior, and they tend to move in the direction that she wants them to go.
So if you have the ultimate personal brand, then you reach everyone in the world, change all of their behaviors in a positive way, but avoid the following, or at least that's what I try to do. And also one of the reasons why I ditched one of my other channels with over 7,000 subscribers.
So I also kind of relatively reject the concept of all publicity is good publicity. I would just say all publicity is publicity. It will increase the reach of your brand. It won't increase necessarily these two, but it will increase the reach. More people will know about you. And so it's just being specific about what a brand actually is.
So associating your brand with viral but negative topics may actually move more people away from you. I found the following very insightful.
And so if you understand that a brand is built through associations, then you're also very careful about who you choose to appear next to, right? And so there's a reason that I don't speak on stages anymore that I don't own, mostly because the audience will associate me with the other speakers. And I often don't want to be associated with the other speakers. Podcasts, even to a certain degree, have the same thing. They spend an hour with me and this other person. And I've become more and more strict about this to the point where I really don't appear, like I'm not really trying to appear with anyone anymore.
So then when you blow up on YouTube and people ask you to be on their podcast, you may not only think about the increase in reach that you get, but also if those new people from their audience and the people in your current audience will move away from you or get closer to you after they see you with that podcast host.
You are always going to be the purest version of your brand. Like you are your brand. And so you leaning into more of you is the stuff that's going to accomplish these things. And if some people are turned away from you, that's fine. But what we can do to change that is we try and reach as many people as we can, and we try and provide value to those people so that they change their behavior and ideally go towards us.
Which brings me to the YouTube algorithm.
The long-term strategy of every platform is to keep people on the platform. And so they want you to make content that lots of people click on and that lots of people watch all the way through, and ideally watch something else from you. So everything that they do in the algorithm is just to always optimize for those three things. And that's not going to change. Now, the math that they do to code it might change, but the objective will always be the same. And so if you align your objective with the algorithm's objective, you will never have an issue.
I think it's more nuanced than that, but that's a topic for another video. Now, if you wonder if you should invest in better equipment like camera, gear, lighting setup, here's what Alex shared when he just started on YouTube.
That really one did better than my really fancy one, which then taught me that what's inside the content matters more than the wrapper. So for anybody who's like worried about getting started, about making it look right, I don't think it matters. I mean, I think it matters a little bit, but it's 80-20, so focus on the 80.
I think there's some truth in that, especially if you just started. But here's something that is more important that I think everyone should know, which is that not all subscribers are created equal. You don't have to care about everyone liking you.
That's Earth. That's where all of us live. And so if you're really worried about what other monkeys are going to say about you on camera, just remember that they're going to die. And so are you. And in 100 years, it won't matter because social media won't even be here.
It's a good frame to remind yourself of, especially when you're questioning if YouTube is worth it.
So you have two options. One is you can say, I will never do content again. I mean, that's like taking the logical extreme. Like, that's it. I will never try again. I am so fragile that me putting an hour into a video and it not working out, that I will forever forego a free form of advertising that could get me customers.
Which brings me to the following.
You provide more than everyone else does and you do it for free. And then people pay you because they're like, holy shit, if this is her free stuff, I can imagine what her paid stuff is.
But what if you're spending 3 years doing this YouTube, hoping that what Alex says is true, only to find out the reality? Very few people may actually be willing to pay you. Well, that scenario is more realistic than you think. So watch this video to learn the 12 things to avoid that. Talk soon.